God, I haven't done this in so long. I sure hope I don't forget. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, freaks and geeks, trolls and derps alike, welcome. Welcome all. I am none other than Mullet Mike Hardcastle, bringing you Season 6 of Creepy Game. That's right, I ain't going anywhere yet. I'm still here, folks, and I still have a lot to say. Today, we will be covering Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. Oh, I'm just kidding with you. Today, we're going to be covering the Phantom Pain. Today, to kick off this awesome season, we're actually going to be wrapping up something from the off-season, if that makes any sense at all. What it is, basically, was myself and Mutahar worked really hard on a certain particular episode. And that episode was none other than Metal Gear Solid 5. Well, thanks to the good people at a company that will not be named, we were not allowed to show this 40-minute episode because of copyright claims. These copyright claims had slowed down production, and we couldn't give you, the viewers, what you wanted to see. But now, we can. So after several disputes with this company that shall not be named, we fought to the victor goes the spoils. That being said, I'm happy to present to you today the Metal Gear Solid 5 episode of Creepy Game. And that's it. And once we get done with this, that's it. No more Metal Gear Solid. We'll be done with it. It'll be over. Finally. God, I still got it. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? Season 6 is going to be my bitch. Alright. So, it is with great privilege and honor that I can finally bring you this masterpiece that myself and Mutahar worked on. We truly hope you enjoy. So, all that said, get your pizza, get your party hats, get your big old tub of popcorn, because the show is about to begin. The season is about to begin, and it will be unlike anything you've ever seen. So turn the lights down and the volume up as we journey once again into some creepy game. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode, kiddies, so go ahead and get your leftovers ready, because there's going to be a lot to this episode. Metal Gear Solid 5. Or V, technically. Boy, there's a lot to say about this game, and honestly, I don't even know where to begin. I guess I could start by saying that there are several other Metal Gear games not numbered, such as Metal Gear Rising, Metal Gear Acid, Portable Ops, Ground Zeroes, and Metal Gear Peace Walker. If you still haven't played Metal Gear Solid 5 yet, and you want to, then I strongly suggest you play Snake Eater, Peace Walker, and Ground Zeroes first. Yeah, I can see why some people find the series convoluted. Chances are, if you're watching this, then you already know, but for the uninitiated, the Metal Gear Solid series is basically broke up into two separate stories. There always seems to be a theme of two in each of these games. There is one storyline that follows the character of Solid Snake, and another following his father, Naked Snake, aka Big Boss. Both storylines are great in my opinion, but it can be confusing as to exactly which Snake you're playing as and in which order. Now, something I eventually learned about the series is how polarizing it is amongst players. There seems to be two major generalized groups of people who enjoy the Metal Gear Solid series. There are people who just enjoy the stealth gameplay and they tend to find the cutscenes too long or find them being shown too often. The other admittedly generalized group, which I guess I would fall under, would be those who really don't mind the cutscenes and enjoy getting lost in the story's narrative. Well, good news for those who fall under the first category, because Metal Gear Solid 5 is for you. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the game, but it was definitely more of a casual gameplay experience compared to the previous installments. The gameplay seemed a bit repetitive and the cutscenes are few and far between, but Metal Gear 5 was still an entertaining entry. That was probably my only gripe about the game. Well, that and the ending. Or lack thereof. But we'll get into that later. I don't want to spoil anything just yet. So don't worry, spoiler free until I say so. The game is set years after the events of Ground Zeroes, when Big Boss wakes up from his coma. You've been hid away by Ocelot and company in a European hospital. In the opening prologue, you learn that punished Venom Snake, yeah, that's what they actually call him, has not only lost his left arm, but has shrapnel lodged in his skull, at times resembling a devil's horn. Later, the doctor explains that someone is after you and you'll need reconstructive facial surgery. The face you design ends up being your avatar for the newly launched Metal Gear Online. Now, if you saw my first episodes, then you may remember me saying that while fantastical at times, the world of Metal Gear Solid usually remains in a realistic tone. Well, the opening hour of this game throws all of that out the window. All I have to say is giant whale of fire devours helicopter. Enough said! Yeah, that actually happens. That would be a great segue into the creepy aspects of this game. A few years ago, the original teaser for Metal Gear Solid 5 was shown. At the time, the only title that was revealed was The Phantom Pain. In typical cryptic Kojima fashion, the teaser shown was really vague, showing scenes of the opening prologue with zero mention of the Metal Gear Solid title at all. Much like he did with PT, Kojima created a faux game company entitled Moby Dick Studios. Kojima must have really been into the story at the time, because the codenames Ahab and Ishmael are used quite regularly. As a matter of fact, when the hospital is under attack, your mystery savior introduces himself by saying, "Call me Ishmael," which is the famous opening line of the novel Moby Dick. I know, not exactly creepy, but interesting nonetheless. What's creepy was the game's original teaser. The Phantom Pain? What is this? Because the teaser almost portrayed it as a survival horror game of sorts. Well, leave it to the good people of the internet, because within 24 hours, speculation began running rampant over this possibly being the next major installment in the Metal Gear Solid series. Now, joining me today is a very special guest, but no stranger to the show, Mutahar from Some Ordinary Gamers. Now, as I've stated, there is so much to talk about in this game that we've decided to join forces and tackle this beast of a game together. So what we're going to do is Mutahar will be covering various eerie theories, and I'll be covering scary Easter eggs and creepy characters, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. Alright, Muta, welcome back to the show, my friend. What you got for the creepy community?
Well, thank you, Mike. As far as theories and speculations in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain go, it's pretty intense, let me tell you that. I have not seen that many theories from any other games, but, well, with a lot of people dedicated behind the real truth of the game, so to speak, there are plenty of theories out there, but we're going to really consolidate them down. For example, the first one we have to look at is Porchupia. Now, what Porchupia is actually a classic MSX title. Developed by Chunsoft, yes, Chunsoft, those exact same people behind Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and NX Productions, before, they merged with Square. This game was released in the 80s, and it was actually titled the Portupia Serial Murder Incident. Now, that's actually an adventure game designed by Yuji Horii, and it was released, again, initially in the NEC PC 6001 in '83, and later ported all the way to a lot of many platforms out there, even mobile and some family computers too. So it basically was a game that, again, played out like an investigation, sophisticated, and what you would have to do is you have to solve by searching for clues, explore areas, and solve a bunch of puzzles and everything. Now, it was actually a relatively darker title. It was open world, and it actually was sort of like the L.A. Noire back in the day, too, with that, obviously some of the key, features missing. It was an ambitious game for the time, a very good point-and-click title. Now, the weird part about it is why I would even mention an MSX game being tossed in, totally different from Metal Gear Solid 5. The reason I'm mentioning this is because game data miners, on the PC version specifically, have looked around the Ground Zeroes game, have looked around Phantom Pain, and have seen that the Portupia game actually exists in parts throughout the game's files of Metal Gear Solid 5 across both of the games. And the last little bit of the Portupia, file that we have to look for is actually not even available yet, it seems. As far as some modders speculate, until Metal Gear Online is released on PC, we won't actually see the results of the Portupia case. In fact, when that comes, we'll actually see the final tape, which is actually hidden across parts of the game. And this isn't just a standard tape that was cut up and just split into the game code. No. This actually has different header files to it, which means that it was actually a ROM hack created by the people over at Konami or Kojima Productions to, really put this in. So there was actually time and effort went behind actually modifying, or creating a ROM hack, rather, which kind of would have been, which was actually, if you think about it, a very interesting development story, I guess you could say, for people just working on the project told that they'd have to make a ROM hack and spread it around in game files. Now, was this coincidental? Most likely not, but is it interesting? Well, yeah, because as far as we can tell, the game really does mirror a lot of the similar aspects to the Metal Gear Solid 5 story and characters in some of the way it exhibits itself. So for the fact that this exists, it's actually really nice to see why this would be tossed in. In fact, Kojima did, look at the game with high regard as well. So the idea of having that, in the game itself is actually rather interesting, and why it would be there, well, we don't know yet. And until Metal Gear Online hits the PC side so data miners can look around all they want, we won't actually know how this one turns out. It's interesting, and, well, it's very interesting indeed, let me tell you that.
Now that's just fucked up. And creepy. See why I got Mutahar on here? Moving on from theories for a quick second, let's talk about some creepy characters. In the prologue, we are introduced to two supernatural beings. The man on fire and this guy, who I originally thought was a girl. Huh. Whoever they are, they look awfully familiar. He wears a gas mask and has telekinesis. Huh. Either way, these two set the tone and let you know that you are in for one dark journey. Mutahar has helped shed light on one eerie theory already and still has another mind-blowing one coming up. We've discussed some creepy characters, but let's move on to my personal favorite subcategory. Let's look at some disturbing Easter eggs, shall we? If you've been watching the show, then you know now that series creator Hideo Kojima loves to sprinkle in plenty of Easter eggs. Some cute and harmless, like the birthday cutscene. Others, a little more dark. Located in the jungles of Africa lies a small camp. You can access it easily in Mission 20, ironically titled Voices. Nothing too out of the ordinary. That is, unless you listen to the radio in this particular tent. If you listen closely, you will hear the radio transmission from PT, Kojima's now cancelled Silent Hill project. There's even a theory that the two games were supposed to correlate with one another, that PT was really a form of Snake's PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. It's an interesting thought, but we'll talk more in depth regarding various theories here in a minute. Back to these creepy radio Easter eggs. I've actually visited this tent later in the game and heard an entirely different recording. Rather than hearing the news report of the man killing his family, I heard these strange, distorted, demonic sounds. From what I understand, There are several radios throughout the game that actually play other PT sound cues. Nice touch. So let us now all take a moment of silence for the now defunct Silent Hills. Another creepy aspect is that of Venom Snake himself. As I previously mentioned, the game gives you a remarkable amount of freedom. That freedom entails what kind of character you'd like Snake to be. You can go in and play a stealthier, more noble game, rendering your enemies unconscious, or you can go in guns blazing, ready to bathe in the blood of your adversaries. If you choose the latter of the two, Venom Snake will eventually turn into Demon Snake. His face will begin to resemble that of an actual demon, with the blood no longer being able to get washed off and the shrapnel beginning to look more and more like a devil horn. This is shown more predominantly in later cutscenes. Either way, I thought it would make for some good, creepy gaming. Speaking of other creepy characters, Skullface is the game's lead antagonist. Disturbing appearance aside, it is Skullface's actions that make him a true monster. He is so unpredictable and his motives are questionable. Just like Kojima's fascination with Moby Dick, I can't help but feel that he was inspired by another classic work of art, The Phantom of the Opera. And I'm not talking about the musical, I'm talking about the original novel by Gaston Leroux. Skullface's appearance is just like that of the Phantoms in the book, even down to the black mask. Besides, it doesn't help that the word phantom is used hundreds of times throughout the game. All that aside, much like the bosses from the previous game, Skullface has his own team of goons known as the Skull Unit, or the Parasite Unit. See what I mean by the theme of two? I don't know what to call anybody in this game because they all have multiple names. These eerie super soldiers are creepy as fuck and even harder to kill. They arrive in the form of mist. Their silhouettes can be seen in the distance. Their attention seems to be triggered by the slightest movement, so it makes sneaking past them even more difficult and nerve-wracking. It doesn't help that they can be so damn difficult to kill, too! It's okay, though. It's okay. It's nothing some good old CQC can't fix. Alright, so we've talked about some more creepy characters and a few disturbing Easter eggs. Let's now discuss some more theories and touch on revelations. I told you I'd warn you, we've gone as far as we can without digging into spoiler territory. So, official creepy gaming spoiler alert. If you've not finished the game, stop right here unless you don't care about spoilers. So, the big revelation in this game is that you're not even playing as the real big boss, but rather a double if anything were to happen. Yeah, the real Phantom in this game is punished Venom Snake. I'm not gonna brag or say I saw this coming because I didn't, but the game did give me plenty of clues that something wasn't quite right. Remember the reconstructive plastic surgery from the game's prologue? Yeah, that was to make your face resemble big bosses. Also, when you replay the mission at the end, a voice can be heard saying V has awakened. So that explains why the game is titled Metal Gear Solid V, not 5. And no, V doesn't stand for victory like Kojima has recently said. V stands for Venom, as in Venom Snake. Fake Snake. Fake! We'll just call him Fake. To me, this just didn't feel like a Metal Gear Solid game, and maybe this is why. Mutahar is about to elaborate more here in a second. Personally, I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I think it's a brilliant plot twist. You can tell it was really thought out for the most part, but on the other side of the same coin, it kind of felt like a cop-out. Almost like a cheap plot device that really didn't add all that much to the game. I'm so torn over this. This is no lie. Muda and I have talked about our thoughts and feelings on the game literally for hours. It was during one of these great discussions that he introduced me to a truly eerie theory. Alright, Mutahar, I know there's a lot to this, so I'm giving you the floor, my friend. It's time for some minds to be blown.
Well, thank you, Mike. The next theory, and probably the most controversial of all, has to be the VR theory for Metal Gear Solid 5, implying that the events of the game, to an extent, are entirely handled over virtual reality. Now, there's many reasons why many people don't like this theory. A, it completely devalues the story of the game, and I'm not saying that the game has no real-life elements to it. Yes, there are points where this game has reality to it. It is a part of Metal Gear lore. It's stupid to say that it would not be. In fact, there are many interesting elements in this game that were revealed and do make sense as the course of the story progresses. When you get to the ending of it, when you progress further than that, you obviously know that this is a contained story within the Metal Gear universe. Now, one cannot deny the fact that there's a weird element about the game. First of all, for a game where the main character, Snake, doesn't actually talk as much as Snake in the previous games, throughout the different renditions, whether you're looking at Solid Snake, whether you're looking at Naked Snake, every Snake has had multiple times of monologuing and multiple hours of talking on many different, topics throughout the game. So for Venom Snake, Punish Snake, Naked Snake, Big Boss, whoever you want to call him in this game, to not really have any dialogue is weird. I mean, does Kiefer Sutherland charge by the, word? I have no idea. But the fact that Snake in this game never really speaks is kind of off-putting. In fact, the entire game is really off-putting. The idea of something so big such as Diamond Dogs to exist, one of the biggest private forces, and never to be mentioned in Metal Gear games later, even as a passing, Metal Gear games in the chronological spectrum later, makes no sense. Now, from a development standpoint, of course, you can't really talk about Diamond Dogs in Metal Gear Solid 1, and while you may be able to bring it up in 4 or Metal Gear Rising, it really wouldn't make sense. Maybe the story is made, as time goes along, maybe it's looked into more, but as a whole, the idea of this huge private force existing is never being mentioned is just really weird. Even if you look at Metal Gear Solid 1, and all spoilers aside, when you look at 3 characters such as Psycho Mantis, who actually turns out to be the child with the gas mask and the psychic powers in Phantom Pain, and you look at Liquid Snake, who turns out again to be Eli, and Ocelot, you notice that this triangle exists in Metal Gear Solid 1, but the reactions and the associations to each player in that game seem far different than what they really should be. In fact, even if you progress through later on in the games, none of this ever gets mentioned. Even though every character, aside from, again, Solid Snake, knows the truth behind it. Ocelot knows the truth. Liquid, to an extent, knows the truth, because Liquid was involved in the Diamond Dogs unit. You also have to look at how the game is laid out. Again, this is a VR theory. There are certain dialogue segments given from Ocelot which actually point this to being a VR, such as pull him out. It specifically sounds like it's so close to the S3 program featured in Metal Gear Solid 2. If you look at this game with Metal Gear Solid 2, you can actually see the S3 program and the events of Phantom Pain serve a nice parallel. The idea both is, if you really look at it, they basically serve the same purpose with an entirely different method. Whereas Metal Gear Solid 2 relied on technical prowess to recreate Snake, right, through artificial cloning. You have to look at the characters Raiden and Venom Snake. Both of them are taken out of their element and implanted somewhere else, given almost the same variables. For example, they are given this exact variable to become what they are set out to. I mean, even given the code names such as Snake, here you have Venom Snake, over there you are directly, Snake at that point, being referenced to as that, being put in nearly the same sort of headspace, the same environments, whereas over there was a recreation of Shadow Moses. Here you have this whole ideology where you are Snake. You are put into it, you are in a coma, you have been brought to a point in hypnotherapy where you believe you are Solid Snake, not Solid Snake rather, but Big Boss, right? The legend. You believe it. You have the past mission memories in your head. And, despite having some muscle difference, despite, going through all that, you are almost a 99% clone, so to speak, of Big Boss. In fact, if anything, when you look at it, Venom Snake is the best of all of them. This is the best character. This is the best Snake that we have. Where Solid as Snake is good. This is Snake down to a T. You know, as you play through it, you notice, if you really think about it, this is the best rendition of Big Boss that could be captured. We have to fucking go into FOBs and in the online metagame and fucking steal nukes so we can get all the FOBs on our fucking platform down to 0. I mean, all the nukes gone to 0 or whatever. I mean, that just seems way too convoluted. And let's be honest,
okay, man.
I don't really see that happening for a while. But there are many theories, many theories in the Metal Gear Solid 5 universe right now, and to be honest, this game kind of deserves it. It's one of those weird games that is just locked in this fugue state, I guess you could say. I mean, it is a Metal Gear game, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a Metal Gear game in terms of how the story is revealed. It feels like Metal Gear Light when it comes to the storytelling. But that being said, it's still a good game. It's just kind of unfinished, I guess you could say. But that being said, Mike, that was the theories on Metal Gear Solid 5. I know I've been kind of all over the place, but this is a game where you're all over the place, literally, of the theories, and you're also all over the place with, well, how the story is really portrayed out. That being said, back to you.
Wow. Just wow. Now that's passion, folks. See, I told you there was going to be a lot to this. And don't be sorry, Muda, for being all over the place. I get it. There's a lot to this, and as you said, the game really is all over the place. The possibility of the entire game's events being VR sounds like it could be a very plausible theory, and I do find the strange parallels between Liquid and Raiden. He definitely brought up some interesting points. So, you pretty much have to question everything in this game. What's real, what's not. And wait a minute, did he say that was Psycho Manus? Holy fucking shit, it was, wasn't it? The Phantom Pain. More like the Phantom Pain in my ass. More like the Phantom ending. Hell, there is no ending. And I didn't even begin to talk about Colonel Volgin from Snake Eater being the man on fire, or one of my favorite characters in the game, Quiet, and her relationship with Fake Snake. We could obviously talk about this shit all day. Why can't I say that we haven't already? This game is a hot mess. The gameplay is great, but the lack of ending, obvious cuts and edits, the conflicting tone, the repetitive missions, the mangled narrative, the entire missing third chapter. Besides, I feel Muda said it best. It just doesn't feel like Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I'm sure it has a lot to do with creative differences between Kojima and Konami, but still, it's safe to say I have a love-hate relationship with this game. Parts of it are brilliant, while others are just lacking. Overall, I enjoyed the game for the most part. Don't think that I didn't. I just think the bar has been set ridiculously high when it comes to the Metal Gear Solid franchise. As far as the creepiness goes, though, it's pretty damn strong. You've got creepy locations and characters such as Skullface and Psycho Mantis. There are several strange Easter eggs, the mind-blowing plot twists, and a plethora of eerie theories. I could talk about Metal Gear Solid all day long. But since Hideo Kojima's departure from the company we shall not name, I think this is a good place to kind of shut it off. I mean, he was the heart and soul of those games. He was what made them so good, so charismatic, made the characters so deep, made the story so strong, and made the games just so damn creepy. So, this one's to you, Kojima-san. Thank you for all the entertainment you brought us, and we look forward to what you got in the future. But as for the company that shall not be named, fuck them. That's going to do it for me today, folks. I hope you all enjoyed. I am Mullet Mike with us saying, stay creepy. Thanks for watching Season 6. Peace! Alright, guys. You know the whole YouTube shtick. Subscribe for more.